Ask Reddit, what scientific experiment would you run if money and ethics weren't an issue? The Gilligan's Island experiment. Shipwreck 100 people with vastly different backgrounds, wealth disparity, and personalities on a remote island. See what kind of civilization grows from it. Then do it 50 more times to check results against each other. Someone wrote a book about this. Basically, there are a number of case studies. You might find it interesting, look it up. They're called shipwreck societies. I'd train gorillas in weightlifting, really see how tanked they can get. Boost them with steroids along the way. After that, I'd take my army of beasts, pump them full of cocaine, and let them loose in an empty shopping mall. Wanna see which stores they like and which ones they don't. You know, for science and shit. Edit, I've had some fantastic input from you geniuses. To add, the gorillas will be trained in all beef-up exercises, even though science is against me on this one. We're gonna throw some PCP in with the cocaine. Cybernetic hearts to handle the load of coke, yada, yada, yada. Thought I had more on this. Oh. And the mall is empty because I'm not a freaking murderer, you guys. Quit trying to kill everyone. Not all science is about death, geez. See if a monkey tribe could become dominant over the rest by training them to make and use weapons and other primitive technology. Also interested in seeing if they would take their newfound knowledge and begin to expand an empire. I've always wanted to try to breed a winter blooming rose. Ethics are fine, but the cost of having that many roses in a hothouse and the decades of selective breeding most likely required to accomplish it would cost an astronomical amount, so I'm sticking with it. Have an Olympics where every single athlete is drugged to an insane level. I think it would raise what is possible by today's standards drastically. And then have an average person compete alongside them to show the disparity. Imagine Lane 1 Usain Bolt juiced up. Lane 2 Jim from accounting. How long a decapitated head stays conscious. All we have are anecdotes that might have been exaggerated. I've always wanted a definitive answer, but you know, ethics. It's been done 7 to 10 seconds, so you gotta start planning on your last words now. You won't have time then. My current is I'm going to head out. How athletes from different sports react to fight or flight. Even further, would they fight differently than others? How would the world react to a mountain of 100 billion pennies for free in the middle of a major area? Near-death experiences, and what people see. So basically I'd wanted to kill a bunch of people then bring them back to life. I'm sure a lot of them wouldn't make it back. CRISPR the absolute fuck out of some kids and make some next-level humans that can run stupid fast and jump crazy high, then make the superhuman Olympics trademark and figure out what humans are really capable of. Dinosaur cloning, what else is there to do? Humans have quite a few movies that tell you that dinosaur cloning is a bad idea on Earth. So you're saying we need to go to the moon or Mars? Nah, go to one of the moons of Mars. Oh man, I love this question. There are a ton of geoengineering experiments that I'd love to run if they weren't both 1. Illegal, 2. Insanely expensive, 3. Non-zero possibility of death and destruction. Iron fertilization. Basically dumping tons of iron dust into the ocean causes an algae bloom, which should sequester a bunch of carbon and help mitigate global warming. Cloud seeding, space mirrors, dropping a nuke into a volcano. You know. Normal stuff. Teach a kid the wrong words for everything and see how long it takes for them to adapt. Genetic altering of humans, I don't currently have an issue with anyone that wants to do it on themselves. However, to do it to an embryo or through the parent's DNA to see what we could do to advance humans would be amazing. Alterations to intelligence, memory, physical attributes, gills to swim underwater, visual alterations to see the full light spectrum and hearing for the full sound spectrum, immunity to all diseases and harmful bacteria, ability to eat almost anything for sustenance. I will make 5 subjects of sane and healthy mind placed in a facility with 5 psychopaths, insane murderers. They will have group activities and a pair of 2 from each group, and the activities will be of 2 types, moral and immoral. Then I will conduct results about how much these activities affect the subjects in both groups. Raise a child without ever punishing or rewarding them, just let them do whatever they want. And then see what happens to their behavior when they age. I've actually thought a ton about this. I would put 2 people through the exact same conditions the entire life. Now I'm not talking just similar scenarios, but everything from the weather inside the womb to the humans they interact with to the wind every day, and I would see if they are the same. Essentially, if humans are born with personalities or if we develop them through little things all our life, essentially the butterfly effect. TBH, this probably wouldn't even be possible with infinite money, but it would be cool. Have a baby human raised by apes, basically to see if Tarzan scenario would occur and the human is able to communicate fully with the apes. With Elon Musk's Neuralink thing, the first thing I thought of was an unethical experiment. If you attached a whole bunch of wires to the speech center and audio center of the brain of a bunch of children, and networked them together, I wonder what kind of language they would develop and how they would communicate with what is essentially telepathy. I'd study the long-term effects of low G on humans, by sending a habitat to the moon and then sending supplies and volunteers. And I'd send a lunar bulldozer to cover the habitat with regolith because I'm not particularly interested in contaminating my results with radiation exposure. Throw two groups of toddlers, one boy, and the other girls, on two separate islands, provide them food via robots and not teach them anything regarding gender, sexuality, race, language, etc. and see how they develop and never mention to them the opposite sex and have them be racially diverse too. It would answer so many questions regarding psychology. i.e., is sexual orientation a product of nature or nurture? Are humans born with innate gender roles? Are humans naturally tribal and or xenophobic? Etc. How children develop when occasionally microdosing LSD. I'd run a serial killer contest. First person to successfully kidnap and kill 50 people receives $10 million 1 year after the last kill, if they are not caught by authorities and if they can prove the killings. How many persons would undertake this? How many victims would there be? Brain transplants from humans to animals and vice versa. Redesigning the human sinus. I wish to find a way to modify the body to fix that mess of an airway. I'd like to clone several sets of baby Hitlers and see how they grow up in different environments. Some can include a loving family, the kind that you barf at because they're so perfect. A Jewish family. An artistic family that encourages his talent. An abusive family similar to the one he grew up with. A family of scientists. And finally, the most unethical environment, a family of politicians. I'd love to pit elite Madden gamers versus NFL play callers and see who is better at game management and play calling. I want to send someone to space without a space suit. I've read about everything that can happen, I just want to see it on film. Not necessarily a scientific experiment, but a series of experiments to see how you can control nerve sensations from the brain and whether you can create VR that can perfectly mimic the sensation of touch whilst being motionless. As if you're moving and touching something in a virtual world but not in the real world. Is that even possible? To measure the effect on the development of humankind by eliminating the least intelligent 5% of the human population every year based on monthly standardized testing. Force compliance on specific diets with a diverse sample of people in a well-regulated control group. Follow for 10+ years. Is veganism really healthy? How about paleo? Should we never be eating gluten or dairy? I'd like to know what people would really do for a Klondike bar. I've always been really curious about what the results of the Holocaust twin experiments would be if they were run by a sane person. If I didn't have to worry about the fact that I was slaughtering a bunch of children, which very much goes against my morals, I'd recreate those. Which prescription drugs aren't really dangerous to mix with alcohol, and to what dosage can you be closest to death without dying so I can get litty? I would breed and engineer dogs to become more intelligent until they can understand the concept of "I am coming back soon." Don't worry, they deserve it for helping us get this far as a species. Soft target schools. To see whether a school where people are trained and have guns is safer or less targeted than a school that does not allow firearms. I don't know how it would be done, but someone had mentioned it to me and I've always wondered how you would test it. Pretty much any Vault-Tec experiment. Put a baby in a pure white room at room temperature and find a way to keep them alive with no human interference. What would they do for their whole life? A legitimate eugenics experiment not rooted in racism and actually rooted in breeding superior humans. I'd use CRISPR and all kinds of gene doping techniques. After all the poo-hoo-hooing is done, humanity will thank me for solving modern healthcare problems through genomic manipulation and ushering in the next era of human evolution. I'd also use those artificial wombs to mass clone, mass produce, and mass develop genetically modified embryos. I'd simultaneously pump billions into AI research so that the day-to-day responsibilities of running a society would be taken over by intelligent machines, which will free up precious time and energy that will go towards the eugenics cause. That Doctor Who episode wherein they bred artificially grown humans, infect them each with all known diseases so that they can develop antibodies/cures. Iron Man suit. Ethics doesn't even need to be ignored. I just really want a complete Iron Man suit with all the weapons, flight, and FRIDAY. Edit. You guys seem to be worried about how I'm going to power the suit. All Iron Man suits have an arc reactor built into the chest, even the Mk1. I asked for a suit, so I'm probably gonna make something similar to the arc reactor built into the chest. Poke around in people's brains and see what I can and can't be done from altering the brain. Imagine being able to stop allergies. I'd raise a group of children from birth to adulthood, kinda a Truman Show thing, without any contact with music, and see how it affects their lives and personalities. I'd make sure everything else would be normal, but music would be edited out of their lives. Put 100 babies from different countries on an island with a bunch of mute caretakers. Then see what their language would sound like.